Like I wanted to test myself against the best in the world to see where are the limits of my human potential? Where can I go? It wasn't for money. It wasn't for fame because there was nothing in the early days. Everybody was just like, dude, what can we do? You know, is one workout the way to go? No, let's do 5. Five's too much. Let's go down to 3. We were just testing things out, and it was a really cool environment of guys and girls who just wanted to see like how far we could push ourselves.
Yeah. Black Rifle coffee, baby. Pretty cool.
Should I keep them over here? Like, am I gonna taste it?
Yeah, you're gonna crack it.
Like, right? You want to start recording?
Oh, we're recording.
Show has begun.
Oh, shit.
So you got one of the potential new ones there.
All right, let me check this out. This is
And Jake's gonna bleep all these flavors out because this one's my favorite.
Oh, do you not want me to say that?
No, you can say it, but he's gonna bleep it out.
This one is Oh. You know what's funny about the title that was already bleeped out is that if I were to describe a flavor that reminds me of this is exactly the flavor.
I should have just had you drink it and not tell you what it was, so you could have tried to guess.
Dude, that's great.
We'll try this one without looking at the label then.
All right. I got to give it a second.
So the stuff I think I can
They
talk
tasted
about.
very similar because
Yeah, they're pretty close. They're
Yeah.
pretty close.
All right.
The things I can talk about, I believe so. Right now we've got fruit punch, the Arctic one, the white one, and then the Ranger Berry, and then the Project Mango, which has the flying elk and the UFO on it. The next on the pipe are Grape X, Orange Bomb, and is getting in the main stable.
All right.
It's a little bit further down the line, but we're gonna have like 12 of these things here pretty soon.
different flavors.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm just a sucker for a good old coffee, man. This place
hey.
is great. Imagine that.
Look at that.
So is this the same light roast you already did earlier?
Yep. This is
Give me a little.
Edwin didn't have any of his test roasts or anything like that, so
Thank
I
you.
just did the Neptune Spear, which was the ECS from a couple months ago. What's your usual morning routine substance consumption look like, or
Yeah.
is there one?
Yeah, so I get up around, I'd say on average, like 5:15. I like to, first thing, this is what I've been doing for the last while, is that I will make myself a cup of coffee. Typically in the morning, I'll go with espresso just because it's so fast and easy,
Yeah.
right? I have two of the kettles. I have the coffee setup like we were talking about. I'm kind of a nerd about coffee. I love it. So I'll make espresso just because it's so fast. And then while I'm sipping on that, I'll normally read. And then after that, then I'll take a little bit of like a pre-workout, like a little bit of a carbohydrate typically, and then I'll train.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing for a long time, and it seems to work really well for me. But like, it'd be really difficult for me to give up coffee. I typically throughout the year try and give up different things, whether it's like right now I've been 45 days with no alcohol. It's much easier for me to give up alcohol than it would be for me to give up coffee.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When you get older, alcohol is just it's a fucking throwaway thing because it doesn't really give you anything. You know, the only thing I want to do is like I want to fucking sip some champagne with my wife like every once in a while, but like outside of that, like I had a fucking Coors Light after we finished this shootout on the Salt Flats last night because we were fucking flying the giant American flag behind the 1972 Bronco with a fucking Ma Deuce on it, and I was like,
It's
you know
almost
what?
mandatory at that
Yeah,
point.
I was like, I'll drink a fucking Coors, but it's just kind of a throwaway thing. But I quit coffee for 30 days last year.
Did you get a headache after the first couple days?
No, I didn't like have anything like that. It just kind of sucked.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like it gives you a fucking another gear in the morning, and like you're like, oh, I don't have that anymore.
And the flavor of it, I just love the flavor of it. And my whole family loves coffee. So it's just like a part of our routine. Like my kids like it. Everybody, like my wife likes it. It's just something we could connect over. And yeah, back to the whole, for the alcohol thing, it's interesting. We've been doing 45 days of this challenge with a bunch of guys are doing it. And I'd say there's probably 3 things that have just like changed their life. One is removing alcohol and then bringing it back in moderation, like finding the appropriate times. Like if you and your wife are out, dude, have some champagne, celebrate, like it's all good. But a lot of these guys were having 2, 3, 4 IPAs every day just as a habit. And once they took that out, not only are they not having those calories, but it's also they're not waking up the next day with a little bit of a fog, just a little bit, right? So that's been a game changer. And then kicking off the morning with 50 grams of protein has been huge. Today I still have to get in a little bit more protein because that bar didn't have enough in it. But I used to fast until like 2 o'clock. And I found that for a lot of guys, what happens is by requiring themselves to get in 50 grams of protein by 9 a.m., it means that the night before they have to kind of like be thoughtful about, hey, what protein do I have access to? Do I have eggs? Do I have meat? Do I have this? They're not just waking up in the morning and randomly picking out a random bar. And then by midday, they're not starving and just grabbing the first thing they find because they feel kind of satiated so they can make better nutrition choices midday. So those have been game changers for people. So if you're a guy out there, I would definitely take that into consideration.
Yeah, I was on the don't eat. I'm horrible at eating just in general.
Yeah.
Just because you get so busy.
Dude.
Like right now, you were waiting for me sitting on the picnic table you were early. You're a 15 minutes early guy. You probably got 8 hours of sleep last night looking at you. You were sitting there waiting for me and I didn't get home until 12:30 last night. I got about 5 hours of sleep and I woke up, drank water, got in the truck, came down here. We worked out. It's now 9:20. I'm not going to eat anything for at least another hour. And that's if I'm like lucky. Like usually
right.
I walk downstairs and I get pulled into something and I just don't have time to eat. Like I'm horrible at it.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you're into this, like, oh, I'm just going to fast or whatever. And that's what Evan does. Evan's like, I don't eat anything until 2. I'm like, that's nice, but you need fucking calories. Like your engine is a fucking calorie consumption machine.
And if it works for Evan, like, dude, for many, many years, it worked for me. Many years. I fasted until about 2.
Even when you were competing at a high level, you would fast?
I would eat minimally because I trained so much that it was hard for me to have full meals because I'd be like exhausted. When I was competing professionally in CrossFit, I would train 3 times a day minimum. And it's not like low key. It's like very difficult training in the morning, afternoon, and evening. So the problem is that if you ate too much in between any of those sessions, it would just bog you down a little bit. So I just would snack. In hindsight, probably there was a better way of doing it. But I ended up keeping that routine even after I was done competing. But it wasn't until I started recently having protein in the morning that I feel great. So I would just encourage a guy to try different things. What I've learned after being in the fitness space for 20 years is that what you see online, all these different people are going to talk about different things. Consistency and figuring out what works for you are so important.
Yeah.
It's so important. Just try it and see if it works. And if fasting for Evan works great, dude, keep doing it,
Yeah. It works for Evan because Evan is so busy anyway that it works for his lifestyle.
Exactly.
Of hey, I'm balls to the wall from 6:30 until 6:30 at least, working into this flow of I know that I'm working while I'm working, right? Is essentially what it is. So you're maintaining a lifestyle in multiple different ways, and those things are kind of feeding off of it. I kind of sometimes when I go through it, when you get that hunger tinge. The interesting thing about the progression of fasting across time is that the survival kicks in way down the line, and you can feel that your jaw starts to the markers that hit as you fast, you feel your jaw it starts that satiation to chew starts coming through, and so your body has all these little ticks and habits that it's trying to remind you, right, to eat, and so you feel the machine coming on, and then you can start to feel your engine go from carbohydrate, and all of that has feelings associated with it, right? And it can give you another gear as you go through that stuff. and it can it can help you out when you're trying to just maintain proficiency throughout the day, regardless of whether you're a high performing athlete or a CEO that's trying to, run 17 different departments cohesively and consistently across time. It just works for you.
Dude, I mean, like popular now, like in the last couple of months has been the sugar diet, which is basically like honey and sugars up until the evening. And then you can have some protein. There's
That's the
paleo
new thing?
Yeah.
Really?
There's paleo, there's zone, there's carnivore. I've tried basically all of it. And I would just say that I think for most guys, most of the time, I think you have to avoid trying to be like hangry, like getting angry around your peers at work, at home. You got to put yourself in check on those things. And you need to figure out what works for your body type and how many calories you're actually expending, burning during the day. If you're not very active, you might need to be more aware, obviously. And if you're not looking and feeling the way you want, you need to make some changes. And there's a ton of solutions out there for guys. I mean, they just got to put in the work.
Yeah. And so that's what you're doing right now is just like high caloric intake early?
Higher, I'd say right now. I've gone in ebbs and flows. I started off in the fitness space when I was really young, 15. And I've just seen a lot of different forms of fitness. I've had different outlooks on fitness over the years. And now where I'm at, coming up on 40, I have 2 kids. I'm more in like a, hey, find what works for you type of thing, but consistency matters. And right now, what I'm currently doing is I'm front loading my protein.
Yeah. So you got in, you started competing fitness-wise, you said at 15.
I started working in the fitness space at 15. So I started at the front desk of a health club.
Yeah.
Like the guy who like sells you a Gatorade. Yeah.
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 And then what was
So I
that
started off at
progression
15. Then I was in high school. I would just work on the weekends at like the front desk when I wasn't playing sports. Then when I graduated from high school, I didn't really apply myself the way I should have. I ended up not playing football, and I started working sales at the traditional gym. So it was like one of those conventional, like 24-hour fitness type of things. I had a couple of really good mentors there who took me under their wing, taught me a lot about the business side of fitness. A couple of years in, I found CrossFit, and I was also doing Muay Thai around that time. Then I started really dedicating myself to CrossFit. I ended up competing in the CrossFit Games. I won the CrossFit Games. I opened a gym, and that was right after I graduated from college. And then I did that for the next forever. So I competed professionally in CrossFit for the next 10 years. We opened up a bunch of different gyms. We did a lot of really cool things along that journey, right? Had 2 kids. And then my daughter got sick in 2016, so I stopped competing professionally. And then COVID hit, and that evolved our business, and that's where we're at right now. So I still own NC Fit, which has brick and mortar gyms and helps gym owners. And then I started a company called Train Hard about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, with really the intention of helping men become more capable and train hard so they could protect and provide for themselves, their family, their community.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm heavily focused on right now. It's a deep passion of mine.
Yeah. So who is we were kind of talking about earlier. Who's your target demographic? Like you do a lot with law enforcement.
I do.
And you try and establish a relationship with them in a multitude of different ways, whether that be the training fitness component side of things or working jiu-jitsu with them. How did all that come about?
Well, I mean, over the years, I just have like followed my interests, right? So before it was all about winning the CrossFit Games. So I was trying to be the fittest on earth. So I'd travel around the world and I would try and meet with the best coaches. I was also teaching seminars for CrossFit, but I would try and meet the best powerlifting coach, the best Olympic lifting coach, the best, because I was trying to win at the sport of fitness. Well, once I stopped competing professionally, I found jiu-jitsu and I really fell in love with the idea of like, dude, there's so much to learn and it's just this endless journey. It's like human game of chess. It's just, there's this ability to be so present and focused while you're on the mats that I think is so valuable. Anyways, as I pursued that path and that journey, I then got really interested in tactical games and shooting sports. And so all of those kind of combine into my ability to help with law enforcement, mainly because I feel like I've developed a set of skills over the last 20 plus years. And I want to be able to share that with law enforcement and give them some cheat codes that I found to be physically fit. I believe at the bottom of the pyramid, if you're looking at the pyramid of someone who, even a dad or a husband, but also someone in law enforcement or military, you name it, like if you have at the bottom of the pyramid, I think is your mental and physical fitness. If you're not physically fit, you can't perform the other duties above that, right? Like whether it's less lethal or, firearms or combatives, if you can't breathe, it's very difficult to perform those tasks. So what I do is I go into different law enforcement agencies and just try and teach them the cheat codes of fitness so that they have that if they ever have to use the other skills that they've developed.
Yeah. And so if, like, we got a bunch of the Salt Lake City officers that come in here and, like, so if they were like, hey, what can I get as far as what you're providing programming wise, where is all that stuff?
I mean, well, first off, we have an app. It's the Train Hard app. You can go to th.fit and you can see that I believe that any guy who's fallen off the path in 45 days could be back on the path. I really believe that because I've seen it. If they just do a few simple things, right? They probably have to remove alcohol, assuming they're drinking on a regular basis and not just like intentionally. All we're saying is like, just be intentional about when you drink. Instead of having a couple of beers every night, just be intentional. They need to prioritize the protein because it helps them front load, and they need to be consistent with their workouts. We have multiple workout tracks available to them, but I would say in general for law enforcement, they need to lift, push, pull, and squat at least once a week. So they need to expose their body to a pulling off the floor, squatting and pressing in that, whether it's dumbbells or barbell, and they need to get in like a shorter duration, a medium duration, a longer duration cardio workout at least every week. So if they could train 3 days a week for 1 hour a day, I think they're gonna be fitter than most law enforcement at this point.
Yeah.
And so those are the type of tools that we have on the app.
Yeah. So do you have like the BJJ overlapped into that?
Yeah.
Or like how do you
Yeah.
suggest, like going about that? Because like now we're talking about a lot of training, right? And
Yeah.
then there's another question that goes along with this, which is like it always comes about, and I'm sure you deal with it all the time with where's the line between I don't have enough time for this, like you're asking too much, like I have fucking kids and a full-time job, like I don't have time for your fucking bullshit, Mr. Fitness Athlete, and like fuck your excuses. Like where the fuck
It's somewhere in the
is
middle.
middle
Yeah,
ground, right?
Yeah. I mean, here's what it is. The most guys listening to this podcast right now do not have the same schedule that I have. And I understand that, right? Part of my job is creating content, working out, doing jiu-jitsu, shooting firearms. I get it. I have a luxury of doing that. Most guys don't. I think really when it comes down to it, and I have it on my shirt, is to train early and to train hard. I think for most guys, if you just woke up 30 minutes earlier, even 30 minutes, and just did some burpees, a walk, some push-ups, and then continue to build your momentum, that's the first step. So I would encourage guys to ask themselves if they could start developing habits where they can get up a little bit earlier. Because the mornings for me are for me. Like the mornings I dedicate to myself so that I could show up for my family for the rest of the day. So in my house, I wake up at 5, and my kids and everybody doesn't really wake up until 7. So I have a couple of hours to get in some reading, to get in some fitness. Now, not all guys have that. What I would say though, to answer your question directly, my current split is that I work out every day. I add jiu-jitsu 3 days a week, and I go to the range once a week. That's excessive for most guys. I get it. I would encourage you to get in 2 to 3 days of strength conditioning, 30 to an hour. And if you're rolling jiu-jitsu, try and get in 2 more days. And you have to listen to your body, and you have to adjust what we call the RPE, like rate of perceived exertion. So if you're a guy out there and you're hitting 3 days of fitness at a level 10 and 3 days of jiu-jitsu at a level 10, you're gonna be smoked. But if you do 2 days of fitness at a 7 or an 8 and maybe 1 day at a 10, and then you go to the mats and you do 1 day at a 10 and 2 days at like a 7, you're gonna find a beautiful balance where you're accumulating skills and you're getting more fit. So that's what I would encourage you guys to do, is to listen to their body, allocate time earlier in the morning when the distractions are less, and then find a balance that works for you.
Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. I
But
think that's fair, right?
That's fair. And the early thing, I just want to caveat this. Like, I understand that it's difficult, but if we could build habits over time, like right now we're doing 45 burpees every day for 45 days, and you just did, we did more than that. But dude, 45 burpees takes you 5 to 7 minutes at the most. So if you just woke up 10 minutes early, walked downstairs, got in 45 burpees, all of a sudden think about the momentum you can start to build in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I see such a big difference in so many people that I talk to on the show, within myself, the people that roll through Black Rifle employees. I can't remember who said it, but it was like, and I also work, I don't know if you know the nonprofit or if you've ever heard of those guys at all.
Which one?
They're another programming people. They're good friends of mine right here in Salt Lake City. They did, so like this, they're like a family of trainers. When I say family, like a collaborative. And so you got Mark Twight, who was part of Jim Jones. He started a nonprofit with Michael Blevins, Aaron Blevins. They did the programming for the movie 300.
Yep.
Then they did the programming for Henry Cavill for like Superman, and then they did the like Justice League guys, and then they worked with a bunch of actors and stuff like that. They have programming as well, and then they got a physical space over in it's just right down the road. They're awesome people, but they. I work with them a lot too. So I'm constantly coming in and out of like all these different modalities, all these different people who have all these different approaches. And then like Softfleet, like we were lifting with some of the Softfleet plates too. That's Brent Phillips, and he's got programming for a multitude of different profiles. But that one is like they do a lot of stuff really well, but it's like how to get ready for selection.
Yeah.
Like these guys who are going into the military specifically for these super hard endurance tests, the programming specifically for that. But you started talking about a code earlier when we were in the gym. And I love the thought train that starts when you start like developing your own personal code. That's like, it's like God to me. Like you can have all these different people have all these different definitions of God, but the idea of God is good for everybody. I think anybody that believes in God has a different idea of it, but is all
it's all a good thing.
It's all a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Having a code for yourself is all a good thing. These are all good things to have, and to have things that sort of define you and how you exist within your life. And so it's super interesting for me to interact with all these different people and see all this stuff sort of come together. But before I get to my code, you get to your code. The thing that like the baseline, so like when I start thinking about like getting the momentum of the infinity symbol going, because that's like what we're looking for. Like 100%. We're looking for longevity and infinite movement, right? And I think the mind follows the body follows the mind. And I think that you can kind of jumpstart your mind and your capabilities by moving your body, and vice versa. Like the science behind that of potential versus kinetic energy, right? Like if you start moving your machine physically,
Dude.
Like sometimes you wake up and you're like, man, I'm supposed to be refreshed in the morning, and you fucking feel like shit. Like you didn't get your juices back, you didn't get enough REM, maybe you did and you're like, fuck, man. And like, what do you do about that? And I think just moving your body generates that stuff. It takes you from a potential energy to a kinetic energy. And then your mind starts to go, and like it completely can change the dynamic of your whole day. But then you start to extrapolate that over time. What if you wake up like that and you don't start moving for a year?
Dude.
For 2 years? For 5 years. Next thing you know, you're 250 pounds, you're fucking flabby, fat fuck who's nasty, and you're like, I hate myself because I can't fucking move anymore, and my back hurts, and I hate getting in and out of a car.
Yeah,
you're like, where did this happen?
Well, we call it the never zero. So what we talk about is this idea of never zero, and it's the idea of like momentum, like you're talking about the infinity ring. So imagine like you're pushing a sled, right? When you're moving the sled, it's not terrible. It's hard, but it's not terrible. But when you stop and you restart, it sucks. And that's the whole idea of fitness is like, dude, if you go out and you go on vacation, if you just do something, you go out for a walk, low key, you're allowing your momentum to not be zero. And so it's easier just to pick right back up again. But if you allow your momentum to stop for a week, a month, a year, it's really difficult to come back on that train. And so I'd recommend, when you talk about a code, part of the code is never letting your momentum get to zero. And so that could, again, be just a walk. It could be just push-ups. It could be just burpees. Yeah. It doesn't have to be this extreme workout. I think the fitness industry has done a disservice to men and women, putting it on this pedestal that you have to have the perfect workout. The perfect workout is the one that you could actually get in for that day and remain consistent on for a lifetime. Like I'm trying to be the most jacked, capable grandfather out there. And I'm not trying to just be fit until I'm 50. I want to be fit until I'm 70, 80, 90, as long as possible. So when you talk about a code, there's a variety of different things that we talk about at Train Hard, but at the cornerstone of it all is really a lesson that I've learned, and my dad taught me this, is that the expectation is that life is going to be hard. So my dad came from Iran. When he left there, my grandparents ended up coming over after the revolution or during the revolution. They came here with nothing and they had to restart over again. And he always would tell me as a kid, like, Jason, like, life is going to be hard and we're going to get through it. But that was always his expectation. And I found that it always helped his mindset, because when something was difficult, it was the expectation. When things were great, he enjoyed it because the expectation was that life is going to be hard. And so I think at the cornerstone of the code is that I know life is going to be difficult because I have children, I have priorities, and I need to be strong mentally and physically. And so I train to overcome the hardship that's going to come up in life. And that's like at the baseline of the initial code, right? Yeah. And I saw that firsthand. For me, the greatest gift that like competing in CrossFit really ever gave me was learning the mindset tools for when my daughter got sick, right? It transferred into it. And so I think that that's at the beginning of the code.
Yeah.
Is that life's going to be hard, but we're going to be stronger.
Yeah. What have you learned within your capabilities of working with law enforcement a lot? Really, like, when I think about the people that, like the people that I admire a lot, or like these guys who fucking put it on the line every fucking day and go out there and I fucking sling coffee and I drive 1972 souped up Broncos across the salt flats and I sell coffee. Like, compared to what law enforcement in America is doing, like, I have a pretty cush situation, right? But you interact with these guys, you do BJJ with these guys, you work with them. What are you seeing kind of across the spectrum working with law enforcement that you can kind of help enlighten the rest of the community on any potential things and tricks and tidbits that you found kind of across your years?
So for the last 2 years, every weekend I've been hosting a free workout in a parking lot for men. And it started off with just a small group, and now it's 50, 60 of us every week. And I'd say, maybe 20% are law enforcement. I always invite, of course, the law enforcement, because my intention is to get my local law enforcement as physically capable as possible, so that if I ever need help, they're...
That's so great. Like, no, it's so good.
Like selfishly,
you just like build up the fucking police force in your community.
I mean, dude. I met with the chief. I'm like, listen, like, I have a vested interest for this, for you guys to be as physically fit as possible. Let me host some free workouts because we're trying to get you guys there.
I fucking love that. You should come back and we'll get all the Salt Lake City.
Dude, I'd love to.
We should do a Saturday workout with all the guys.
That's what I do every Saturday. So this week, I'm doing one in Vegas coming up. I'm traveling and doing one in Vegas. But anyways, when it comes to law enforcement, I think that they need more tools, more training, more resources, and not less. And from my experience working with a lot of different organizations, I think that in general, these are really good humans doing really valuable work that needs to be, it's a very difficult job. And I think that we need to provide more tools. So what I try and do is I go in, especially at the academy level, is try and create a baseline of like why it's important to remain fit. Because what happens is a lot of these officers, they go into the academy and they train for the academy. Then they go through the academy and they're probably in the best shape of their life when they graduate the academy in general. But then after that, there's no standard after that. So they qual on firearms, but unless you move to a different unit like SWAT or whatever, you're never tested again on your fitness in most organizations. So I think that we have to set the culture in the beginning that, hey, we're going to have a fit culture. And we have tough jobs. We have to have a fit culture. And so we try and hit them at the academy level, so when they get out, they could sustain that, and teaching them the why of being fit and being the hardest dude in the room to kill and why it matters to get home to your family. That's what I try and do with them. And I think that we're seeing the pendulum shift back. I think that for a while, the pendulum was like taking resources away. I think now you're starting to see that that's not necessarily the right path. I think we need to provide resources and training. I think more training matters. And that's what I'm trying to help with. So I don't know. I think at the baseline of it, though, is fitness. Because think about earned confidence. Like, let's just say you, right? You're a fit individual. We just got done working out. You have stand-up experience. You could walk into a confrontation and be nice and calm, man. Like, the most intense, the most capable men that I know are also the most compassionate, caring, loving, and calm guys I know. Let's use Tim Kennedy as an example, right? That guy can do a lot to you. but he's also super caring. And so a goal of mine is to get law enforcement to be as physically capable so that they could walk around with good confidence and they could approach situations and not have to escalate it so fast.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. What else as far as like across time you see these guys kind of come in or what they deal with on the personal, matching that up with the fitness? Is there anything that you've kind of noticed trend-wise across time?
I think in general, we have to provide a solution that gets generally their fitness up across the board. So like I'm looking for a guy, I just was out, I was at Fort Walker in Virginia last week with Customs and Border Protection. And what I was trying to explain to him is like, guys, like I don't need you to be overly jacked, but I also can't have you just be a runner. I need you to be able to lift people and run with them. And I need you to be both. I want you to be able to run a 6-minute mile and be able to lift, 400 pounds or whatever it is. And so we create programs that really allow for that. It's a broad spectrum of fitness and not just like an overly bodybuilding and not just an overly conditioning. It's a little bit of blend of both. Yeah. And I think you can get that. Honestly, I think most law enforcement, I think most men can get that with 3 to 4 weeks of 3 to 4 days a week of training.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me, and I'm curious your thoughts. When you look at humans, we all have the same stuff.
Yep.
We're all the same meat sacks, right? Like we all have the same set of organs. We, for the most part, can all consume the same fuel source. But when you look at, especially like you won the CrossFit Games, that's psychotic to get to that level where you can be a champion at that specific thing, because it's just your gas tank capabilities, strength, conditioning, stamina is just it's insane. And then you look at how poor some people can be physically, but we all have the same stuff inside, right? After a career of training, of getting to the highest level in things, what's the biggest separation between being a champion and being someone at the bottom of the rung?
I mean, if you're talking about specifically about competing in sport.
Well, no, I think the thing that we should all strive for is like greatness.
100%.
How do we become great? How do we achieve greatness? Every single person, regardless of whether you're an athlete or you're in law enforcement or you're in the military, defining what is greatness and then how to get there.
I mean, I think it's your why, right? It's whether you're trying to be special forces, whether you're trying to be, in a specific unit for law enforcement, whether you're doing your job in selling coffee and you want to be great at that, or you want to be name the trade out there. I think that there's a way that you could really try and excel and reach your potential. I think for me, it goes down to two things. Like at a holistic perspective, I try and reflect on a daily basis of like, am I reaching my potential in the different areas of my life as a husband, as a father, as a business owner, and in my fitness? I just ask myself this on a micro scale. And the reason why I do that is that I don't want to look back years from now and think that I made any catastrophic issues. So like, let's just take being a dad, right? Your son's 10 months old. If you ask yourself just on a daily basis, like low key, you're in the sauna, you're going for a run. Hey, how am I doing? And you say to yourself, I'm doing pretty good. Like, I think I'm leading the right way. I think I'm doing the best I can as a father. Well, 3 years down the line, if you find that something comes up with your son or whatever, or you don't ever have to question yourself, because at the time you made the best decision you could. You regularly checked in. But I think if you check out and you're not present and you're not thinking about that, dude, 3 years down the line, you might look back and be like, man, I made a lot of mistakes along that journey, right? And so that's something I think about, is like reaching your potential in those different areas, whether it's your relationship. Like I said, I've been with my wife for a long time. And then when it comes to being a champion in like sport or work, I think it's reflecting on the why you're doing it in the first place. So I think a lot of people, let's just use CrossFit as an example. They were really good in the garage. They were really good at training. But when it got in a competition, and it really got hard, like really bad. Like I remember an event at Camp Pendleton, and I'm sure, I know you've spent some time there. Like
a decent amount.
Yeah. So like they have the Microwave Mountain. You ever been on You've been on Microwave Mountain. You probably know that place like the back of your hand. We did a triathlon there years ago, and I'll never forget. We're on this Microwave Mountain. It was nasty.
Oh yeah, the games were
there
one year.
It was nasty.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what's funny about that? It's a side note. The Marines were state.
What year was that?
That was 20, I think 11 maybe.
Yeah.
And So we go, we swim, then we bike, and then we run. And the run was gnarly. And at that point, they scored it as 2 different events.
And you were swimming in the ocean too.
You were
right?
swimming in the ocean, you got out, you biked, and that was one event. And then after that, you're already toast. And then you had to run like 10 miles on Microwave Mountain. Dude, that hill was so relentless, man. Just up, down, and switchbacks. I remember we were like halfway through the run. We were already like way into the run, man. I was exhausted. I just remember I'd go up to this, he was a Marine sitting there. I'm like, excuse me, sir. I'm exhausted. I'm like, how much longer do I have left? He goes, you have 1 mile left, sir. And I'm like, hell yeah. And so I put on the jets. Anyways, I go way more than a mile and I find another Marine. I'm like, excuse me, sir. How much longer do I have? He goes, you have 1 mile left. And it just seemed like each time I came across a Marine, they told me the exact same thing. You have 1 mile left. Anyways, but back to what I was saying. On the middle of that run, right, it was really hard. And I had to remind myself of like my deeper why of why am I doing this in the first place? And I think that if you really want to achieve something special, you have to remind yourself of that.
Yeah. Yeah. The games thing is funny, and going through it. So like competing in these different things, like what is it like to kind of go up against some of the best in the world? Like, cause you like, if we look back, like now, CrossFit is at this, everybody knows what it is. And like, there was this like American love affair with it. And then like, it's kind of still there. And now High Rocks is here and everyone's like, well, is it gay or not? I don't know. And then like, we're like, is it going to be around? Like, is it just going to be the next CrossFit? But interacting.
Have you been to a High Rocks, by the way?
No.
Dude, the energy's legit. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, sorry, not to cut you off.
But what kind of sticks out to you, like working and competing across these things in the super high level?
I think what sticks out is like you have a lot of guys out there who, in the early stages of CrossFit, a lot of people got into it because they just wanted to see what they were physically capable of. Like I wanted to test myself against the best in the world to see where are the limits of my human potential? Where can I go? It wasn't for money. It wasn't for fame because there was nothing in the early days. Now, as it's evolved, right, that's changed. And so now you have people that get into it for different reasons. And I'm not to say one is better than the other. It's just in the early days and how I came up with a big group of guys for about 10 years, everybody was just like, dude, what can we do? You know, is one workout the way to go? No, let's do 5. 5's too much. Let's go down to 3. We were just testing things out. And it was a really cool environment of guys and girls who just wanted to see like how far we could push ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's evolved over time, right?
Yeah.
But
when you were like, because we all kind of, you know, you get later in life, you kind of understand, okay, there was a climax of performance.
For sure.
And I'm not there anymore. So now it's just like the rest of life is a little bit chasing the dragon. Like, you know, reality that we all just kind of have to live with and face and then like pursue the raging against the dying of the light, right? But when you were fucking peak, what was the kind of regimen like?
When I was peak, and you know what's funny about it is that this is advice I'd give to anybody who was kind of in a similar situation to me, is that you can't create your identity based on as an athlete forever, because if your identity is wrapped up in your physical fitness, eventually it's going to start to taper off. And so you're not going to keep PRing your snatch for the rest of your life. It doesn't happen that way.
You're going to be a fake booby OnlyFans girl who's 50 years old and now you don't know what to do with your life.
So what you could do, right? Yeah, is start pivoting into identifying other things. So like for me, jiu-jitsu has been a great way for me to acquire my skills and feel like I'm learning new things. And still, like if you ask me, hey, am I more physically fit than I was in 2014? I'd say no. But am I more physically capable? Arguably, yeah. I mean, I think I have a set of skills now that I didn't have back then. And so that's what I'm chasing now. But anyways, back to your question about, you know, you were asking about when you reached your pinnacle, right? For me, my training protocol was in the morning, I would typically wake up and I would do fasted, aggressive cardio, like aggressive, 30, 45 minutes of high intensity intervals on the bike to build up my leg stamina and just to build up my aerobic engine. My midday session would be more like 2 hours, and that would be your traditional CrossFit. It'd be strength plus conditioning. So we would do some workouts that people think are ones called like Filthy 50 or Fight Gone Bad. It's a lot of volume. We would do that as a warm up, and then we would get into our other training. A lot of volume took place in the middle of the day because I was convinced that I needed to build up my stamina. And then in the evening, I would work on skill-specific stamina. So for example, my strict chest to bar pull-up. If you haven't done strict chest to bar pull-ups, they're very difficult. Getting from here to here is much different. So I would do that like 10 reps every minute on the minute for 10 minutes or 20 minutes to build up like this prerequisite strength that I needed at night. And then I would go hit dinner. So I would do that with handstand push-ups. I would do that with my pull-ups. I was trying to develop gymnastic strength at night because that was my weakness. So morning conditioning, midday, like traditional strength conditioning, CrossFit. Evening would be like, what am I not good at? How do I improve my overall, ability in that place? That's generally what it looked like every day. And then on the weekends, I would go long, slow distance. So I'd go hit the ocean. I'd go hit long runs. And especially as the year went on, you would taper it different. So when I was competing at the high level, you had open, which was like available to anybody. You'd have like 400,000 people competing that. You knew what style of workouts are going to be, so you'd tailor your training towards that. Then you had regional, and I competed in the regionals for 5 years, and those are certain type of workouts. So you would prepare for that. Then the games was like really broad. You might be in the ocean, you might be doing a triathlon, you might be stand-up paddleboarding. You didn't know what you're doing. So I would explore more things during that time, and on the weekends would typically be the time that I would do that.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, man, it was great. I got to explore. I got to meet awesome coaches, go learn a bunch of new things, and I think I think more than anything, it helped me mentally more than anything. I'm most grateful for the mindset tools that it taught me.
Yeah. What mindset tools were they?
Like, I'll give you an example. So there was a while where I was like super stressed out. I'm sure everybody's gone through this, and I hired a mindset coach to work with me. And one of the big things he did was he taught me how to use positive self-talk and understand what's in my control. I'd say those two. I'll talk about the understand what's in your control. I would be really worried going into the CrossFit Games, and I would be like anxious about it. He was like, bro, like you got to focus on what's in your control. I'm like, yeah, that sounds easier said than done. He's like, look, go home, take 2 circles, put them on a piece of paper. I want you to put all the things that are in your control for competing on the left, put all the things that are out of your control on the right. So I went home, I took a piece of paper, and I said, okay, triple knotting my shoes. That's in my control, so that they don't get untied in the middle of an event. That would suck. My warm-up. How am I going to mentally prep myself? What's my mantra before I went into an event? So I had a mantra when I hit the stage. You're in front of 20, 30,000 people in an arena. And it'd be, for me, it was move fast, breathe slow. So like, hey, move with purpose, but keep your heart rate under control, right? So list out all those things that are in your control. There's a ton of them. And then over here, list out all the things that are out of your control. So it's, what are the events going to be? What are my competitors going to do? What are my judges going to do? All those things. And he's like, you got to focus on what's in your control because it removes anxiety because you could actually create action against it. So that's really helped me. So I started doing that. I put it on my refrigerator, I put it on my mirror, and I just started being like, all right, what action can I take in these things? What action can I take in these things? I have no purpose here, right? So that was one example. The other one I think that was really powerful for me is this idea of positive self-talk. And I saw this work hand in hand. One day my daughter was in the hospital and she got rushed off to the ICU. So she had leukemia and she's doing better now. But that was like a 3-year stint that we were in the hospital a lot. One time she had to get rushed off to the ICU. And I saw this tool set come into play in the gym and then translate really well into real life. So what it was positive self-talk. So typically, if you're in the gym, you're going through a hard workout, like a lot of times you say, oh, my lungs hurt, I can't breathe, my legs fatigue, like you name the things that are going through your head. Like typically they're all negative, right? What my mindset coach told me is like, hey, when you have a negative thought come through your mind in a workout, coach yourself to the workout as if you're coaching a friend of yours. So if I was coaching you through a workout, I'd be like, hey, I want you to find your heels. I want you to keep your chest tall. I want you to kind of find your breathing cadence. Even some of the stuff we were talking about today, right? It's all positive. So what happened is when I started working out even by myself and I had a negative thought come in, I would then try and translate it into a positive one. And in the beginning, it was hard. But then over time, weeks, months, years, you start to take these negative thoughts and instantly reframe them into a positive one. And that played a big role in my life afterwards. So those two were the major ones.
Yeah. That makes me want to ask, what you talked about the code. Like, do you mind sharing the code?
Well, I mean, for me, what we were talking about earlier.
Is there a mantra? Like, is this someone, like when you say something like that, is this like, do you have a mantra? Is it written down? Is it like kind of a cloudy thing that you're like, oh, I just got all this different stuff?
I think when we were talking originally about the code earlier today, what I was really referring to is like, I'm a guy that started dating my wife at 15. I've had one job and one real girlfriend. I try and live by a code of being disciplined, being honest, and treating people the way I want to be treated. And I really try and reflect on that. Am I doing that to the best of my ability? And I want to surround myself with people who also live by that same code. And if I see people who don't live by that code, who are maybe doing things that I don't think are the right moves, right? From an ethical, moral, whatever, that's hard for me, right? So I want to try and be on this path, and I want to surround myself with as many guys who are on this path too. The train hard code is a little bit different, right? It breaks it down into, hey, we do hard things. Like one of the major things is this like never zero, protect and provide. Like we try and like go over 5 key concepts, eating with our TH5 principles. And then, the last thing is we take weekly progress photos. And so that's more of like a train hard philosophy, but individually it's more about what we were talking about earlier.
I ask you that, and I make the audience listen to this stuff because it's something I've found value in over the years when it comes to just developing the set of standards that you live by, because I'm a visual person, and so like I have like all these, I guess you could call them tools or things in the back pocket that you fall back on, right? Like the thing in the Marine Corps, like you never rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of training, right? Like
for sure.
I think that's truth. I really do. I've been in super high stressful situations, and like I wasn't a fucking superhero in those situations. I was the guy that was trained, right? Like I lived that. And so I do define that as truth in my head. And so when I move forward through time, I always like, what is my baseline and what does my foundation look like? And for me, like I have different versions of what you have, right? Just in a different way in my own head. And I think that defining that for any one person is super important for them. Like, who the fuck are you? Like, that's very important for you to define for yourself.
100%.
Like
and your family, like, and you and your wife having a conversation about what are you guys trying to do? Where are you trying to go? Because a lot of times communication with your wife, you got to realize, like, bro, like my wife and I assume it's the same thing with you, like, we burn the boats, like, type of mentality. Like, we're together. We're in this for life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's same. And so, like, when you say never zero, like for me, that word is consistency.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm like, no matter what, like hell or high water, sick, tired, whatever, doesn't matter. You're doing something that day. So that's that. But, and then like your train early, train hard. Like I have an image in my head that is like a painting, right? Like I love creating my headspace to be positive and beautiful. Like my memory bank, like what does that look like? In my head, my desk is like in front of the Sistine Chapel. And like that's where I go for like my positive headspace of peace. And it's just beautiful. It's this beautiful thing. And I think about, the touch of God. I think about that painting, like we're right there. We're like super close to God, and like we are creators. And I love this beautiful image in my head. And like on the walls are like different paintings from my life. And one of those paintings is when I went back and I did, I lost a good friend in Afghanistan. His name was Matthew Abate, and he's got a WOD workout. And I went back to Camp Pendleton to do his WOD workout a couple years ago. It was like 10, 12 years after he was killed. And during the middle of this workout, I'm working out with that generation 10 years later of the same guys that I was, right? And going back and doing his workout with the new set of Scout Snipers when Scout Snipers were still around. And we did, so it's a mile run, and then 25 clean and jerks at 155. Run, and then it's something in between, and that's another 25 clean and jerks at 155, and then it's a finish with a mile. But we did like the Marine Corps version where the last bit is up First Sergeant Hill, we call it, over by 5th Marines. And I have this painting in my head, like this dude that passed me, throughout the workout, and he's going up First Sergeant's Hill, which is like straight up, right? And this fucking Marine wanted to make it harder for himself, so he picked up 2 rocks in each of his hand, and he's going up the hill with 2 rocks. And I'm like, this is who I am. This is what the Marine Corps is to me, and that foundation is inside of you. And so when you think about getting hard and like getting towards that end, like make it harder. Like pick up fucking 2 rocks and go up the hill that way,
dude,
and have that painting in your head. So it's that foundational wellness of what you are mentally is like when you think it's getting hard, no, like pick up 2 rocks and make it harder.
And it's going to make everything else easier.
Yeah.
Dude, doing hard things makes real life just so much easier, you know, like to overcome. And, you know, I'll give you an analogy. I like this analogy. I call it the break in the band analogy. And I think this is a good one for people to like kind of visualize. If you're like a visual guy, you've ran on the track before with other guys, or let's just take this workout, right? Mile run. So in the final mile run, you and like, let's just say 3 or 4 Marines start the run together, right? And you're all together. So you're all peers at that point. You're competing for that first spot. But eventually at some point, someone starts to break away, right? Let's just say it's you. You start to get like maybe 3 to 4 feet in front of the pack, right? And still at this point, the pack looks at you as a competitor. They're like, all right, I'm trying to chase down, right? The guy in first. Like they still feel like they're competing with you, Logan, right? You know what I mean? Then eventually at some point you break off, right? You get maybe 10, 15 feet in front of the pack. And I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you. At that point, you broke the band on the previous group, and now you've separated yourself. Now this group is no longer looking at trying to catch you. They're trying not to have the guys behind them catch them. And what I think about all the time is like, how do I break the band from my old self? How do I break the band from my competitors, maybe in business? It's more of like a positive analogy. Like, hey, right now we're all peers, but what can I do to train, to learn, to grow, so I can get so far out in front that people are like, oh, dude, that's Jason. He's not even a competitor of ours. I'm not wanting other people to pass me up. And the track is a great analogy, because if you've ever been with someone who's running, they break the band on you, it really demoralizes you. And so it's like that analogy, like, how do I break the band on my old self and be that version where I'm separating out from the group? I'm separating out from where I used to be.
Yeah.
It's like there's like a band around you guys. Boom, it broke.
Yeah.
Breaks.
So like that makes me think of something we talk about frequently here. We call it the vampire effect.
Yeah.
So have you heard of this?
I've heard of it before, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like when you see people, you know, starting to fall back, you see them starting to drop off, you know, you see that weakness start to leak in on them. You like understand like, oh, I'm stronger than you are. And it feels like you suck their power out of them, and it makes you stronger because you get this, like, as opposed to like taking that weakness and like allowing that to affect you in a negative way, you take that negative and you turn it into a positive for yourself.
Right. And it's all about leveling up the whole crew. I think that's the key, right? Is like, dude, if you're with a group of guys, you're all just trying to, like, I've ran with plenty of people that have broken the band on me, and dude, that guy, he's crushing it. I want to try and get to the point where I'm with him in the pack, right? Yeah. But like, it's just pushing each other. You know, I think what I'm really fired up about right now with Train Hard is how do we break the band from our previous selves as men, as husbands, as fathers. I just think we could do it better, man. I think that I'm around a lot of guys who I want to be able to see them go do things with their kids for the rest of their life. I want them to have the physical capability to do so. And there's a tool to get you to do that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, completely going a different direction. What do you think about the enhanced games?
Oh, that's so funny. I just talked about this. I just heard about it 2 days ago for the first time.
Oh, really?
I think it's brilliant.
I love it.
I love it. I think it's incredible. I think it's such a great idea to have the enhanced games. Now, from a business perspective, it's genius because they're now going to sell bloodwork and supplements and BPCs and you know, peptides and all kinds of stuff. I think it's brilliant though. Like, why don't you just call a duck and be like, hey, this guy's enhanced, and we're going to see how fast he can run the 100-meter dash.
Yeah.
It's like,
because what the information that we're going to get out of this is gonna add to our longevity. Like we're talking about, like, what are we really working on? Longevity is just like the one word I really think of when we're talking about, like, what are we actually trying to accomplish later in life? But the data that we're going to get back from this, and like what we're going to see, and like what, Because I don't know if you've fucked around with peptides at all.
I've done oral BPC 157 for like a month. I don't think the oral was the way to go. Other than that, I haven't done TRT. I haven't done any of it. I'm not anti it. I just haven't done it.
Yeah, I haven't messed around with TRT. Still trying to do the kids thing and stay good over there. Done a handful of different peptides. Always cycling on. I haven't done anything in over a year, but have had really like that BPC 157.
You did the injectable.
Yeah, the sub-Q stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing it for my knee.
Yeah, I tried doing the oral stuff. I didn't seem to have the same effect.
Right.
But I could definitely. So for anybody who's wondering what the fuck we're talking about, the peptide stuff, the BPC 157, they call it the Wolverine peptide is kind of because I'm not a fucking scientist or a doctor, but the rejuvenation, recovery side of things, muscle growth seems to be enhanced quite a bit.
Well, and that's the whole reason why I was looking into it. So the reason why I'm interested in peptides is not because I'm trying to go down necessarily it's a testosterone path. I think all guys should get their blood work done for sure. But it's
why
more.
Is that? So, and I asked that because, like I said earlier, I'm always trying to ascertain specific knowledge for the veteran community, and that's something that I told my I go hunting with a group of snipers, and I'm like, oh, you guys should go get your blood work.
They have to.
And they're like, why? And I'm like, well, you get all these markers, and it's coming from me as a friend, and I don't know, you're into weird shit. So I don't know. So
without a doubt,
that's baseline. Why should people get their blood work done?
Every guy, every woman, every guy in particular, though, should go get their blood work done because it is going to be so eye-opening for them. And right now, it's so affordable. So I work with a company called Blokes. There's a variety of others. But right now, for example, at Blokes, it's $75. You can find it at other places too. And dude, you can get a full panel, including your lipid panel, and you can get your testosterone, your free testosterone. You could look at numbers. And there's guys out there who don't realize that the reason why maybe they're so tired, irritable, they have no sex drive is maybe not a problem with them. Maybe it's a problem with their testosterone. And they wouldn't know unless they look underneath the hood. And I think that more than anything, it creates markers that you can reflect back on. So I get my blood work done at minimum, like a full one every year. So I could look back and say, hey, my testosterone. So for example, my testosterone is pretty low at 520. That's not super low, but it's there's a lot of people that would want that a little bit higher. It's in the moderate range, but I feel great. So if I feel great and my testosterone is okay, then stick with it. But now I could evaluate that 6 months or a year from now. Maybe my testosterone drops to 400. I'm starting to feel a little bit tired, irritable. I'm not waking up with, feeling any sex drive, whatever. Well, then maybe that's time to get on enclomiphene, or maybe that's even time to start looking at TRT. But if you don't have these benchmarks, you can't revert back because you don't know. And there could be something underneath the hood that could be life-changing for you. If a guy is not getting blood work done at least once a year, you're just missing out, and it's not expensive.
Yeah. What have you natural testosterone enhancement, not doing TRT, going over years of blood work, have you found anything that any Joe Schmo can implement that will naturally boost testosterone?
I think strength training. I think sleep and strength training, those two in particular, would probably have the best impact. The one that I've seen, actually, quite a few of my friends have had good success with. Have you heard of enclomiphene?
No.
I don't want to speak out of line. I'm not a medical doctor, but what it has done is it's naturally boosted testosterone production. It's an oral pill instead of injectable. And that has seemed to be a great step in the right direction for a lot of guys that I know before they get onto TRT. So once you get on TRT, there is some impacts like you're talking about, maybe a little bit of fertility stuff. Also, it's kind of hard to get off of. Once you're on it, you're kind of on it. So with this enclomiphene, it's a little bit different. It could find a way to kind of boost you up a little bit, and you can see without getting on an injectable. But I think that weight training, I think that sleep, those two alone, and then looking at your nutrition can be key. But if you don't know your numbers, then how can you possibly grow your numbers, or how can you at least evaluate it?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I had a buddy of mine. He called me the other day. He's in law enforcement. He's like, Jason, I do all your training. I try and eat well. I try and do everything that you're saying. I have 5 kids, but I'm tired, man. I don't know what's going on. I was like, hey, have you had your blood work checked? He's like, no. He went and got his blood work done, and his testosterone and other benchmarks are way below baseline, way below. And so he got on these different things, and now he's feeling like $1 million.
What did he get on?
In particular, he got on the enclomiphene.
Yeah.
But I know quite a few people who have also gotten on testosterone. But for me, what I'm most interested in, I tried this thing called a VIP spray, which is a VIP spray. It was a nasal spray. I wasn't a huge fan of that. Tesamorelin is another one that's like an injectable. A lot of these injectables, these peptides, are mainly made for like recovery, like site specific. That's what I'm interested in right now, not the overall testosterone.
Yeah.
And by the way, all this stuff we're talking about, please go do your own research. But above all else, go get your blood work done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
And we work with Hunter 7 too, which is a nonprofit that basically does free blood work for guys. Like specifically looking for certain markers, like to make sure we're cancer free and stuff like that. But that's one of the other resources available. So Hunter 7 for any of you guys like blood work, but like I think going down that rabbit hole is like it's a must for men these days. It's super easy to do, and I'm sure there's a multitude of other resources available for veterans to where you can do it for free too.
yeah, and you could look at like your glucose, there's just so much you could unpack if you have the appropriate doctor with the appropriate blood work that you can start realizing, oh, okay. And then, dude, your blood work might be locked in. Then that's great. Now you've seen underneath the hood. Let's reevaluate a year from now.
Yeah.
And you can start looking for trends.
Well, yeah, and then you got that baseline.
And now you have a baseline.
For 10 years from now when you're like, oh, fuck, I feel like shit. And you can go back like, oh, this is where I was. How do I get back to where I was?
I think if you're talking about the veteran community in particular, I would say that from all my experience in the fitness space and working with veterans and law enforcement, I think what they could do to most impact their life in a positive way immediately is to start exercising, something simple, waking up a little bit earlier, obviously get your blood work done, and then start doing something shoulder to shoulder. I would say those are like the three things. If you could, really what it comes down to is doing something shoulder to shoulder, exercising, and then start looking into all these other factors. Your nutrition, your sleep. The shoulder to shoulder thing, I think in particular for people coming out of the military, I think is so important because they had this brotherhood for 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, you name it. It's similar to guys coming out of sports, right? They played all these sports and then all of a sudden they had this network of guys they shared suffering with. They did things together. And then as a byproduct, they were able to create camaraderie and conversation and talk about real life. I see it every day, every week with my men's club. We train hard, we go grab coffee. I think that if you're not doing something shoulder to shoulder with another guy, you're missing out on that opportunity just to have like really good, like open conversation, yeah. I think that the veteran community in particular, from my experience, just needs to start texting a friend and working out with them. And I think they'll be shocked to see what comes from that.
Yeah. Well, dude, we're like way past your heart out. Do you want to like tell everybody where your stuff can be found and everything?
Yeah, look, I host a podcast. It's a Jason Khalipa podcast. We've got a group of guys that just talk about fitness and lifestyle. I'm at Jason Khalipa on Instagram. I try and share insightful stuff and motivation and get guys on the path. And definitely check out th.fit. It's all the links in my Instagram. We have the Train Hard app. And I think more than anything, the community in there is just, dude, it's just positive community of guys who want to see each other do well and are using fitness as a tool to get there. So if that's you and you're like, man, I want to jump on that, jump on there, hit us up, and I'll make sure to get back to you.
Do you have any law enforcement, military discounts or anything like that set up?
We don't, and this is kind of a little bit of something that I'm thinking about. I told you, I'm going through the academy when it reopens to do my reserve, to donate my time once a month. So I do a lot of that kind of stuff. That's the way that our company supports. But when we started doing the codes in the past, we ran into some difficult situations where do you draw the line with the codes? And there was it just got a little bit messy. We need to relook at it though.
Okay. Well, cool. Thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for getting down with me this morning and sharing some Joe, and we'll have to have you back soon.
Hey, that was awesome. Thank you.
Cool.